Good Sunday morning, State fans. Robbie Falk here from Maroon and White Daily, and decided, just like I did a couple times earlier this year, to wait a little bit before I put out this reaction video. I had some things to do last night. Didn't want to. When I got home last night, didn't want to have to deal with this because we had some really good college football games going on. Not to say you guys aren't important to get my thoughts on this, but I thought it would be a little bit better to come back today on Sunday and talk about what happened on Saturday for Mississippi State. And I think overall another massive step forward for the Bulldogs. And this has happened now 2 games in a row and 2 losses. And these 2 losses are in the 2 losses and the 3 straight losses that Mississippi State had before it are not created equal at all. This is a completely different looking ball club. And I think a switch is starting to flip. I don't think that this team is going to be bowl eligible. I don't think this team, it might not win more than 3 games. I don't know what's going to happen in the back portion of the schedule. But what I know is this looks like a extremely well-coached team, especially on the offensive side of the ball for Mississippi State, and a team that's not giving up, and there's a lot of promise with some of these young players, and we'll kind of dive into it. 41-31 is your final score, Georgia, Mississippi State. This was a second straight cover for Mississippi State in a game that they were picked to lose by 34-plus points in the last 2 ball games. 36 against Texas, I think, was the final line. 34 against Georgia. You lost to Texas in a game that I thought you controlled the clock. It was a game plan that was well executed for the most part, and they were able to really do some good things in that ball game. Although you still lost in not really easy fashion, but it was. I mean, Texas never really felt like they were going to lose that ball game. The State stayed in the ball game, but they lost by 22. It wasn't a game that I felt like was truly impressive by any means, but I thought Mississippi State came in and did the best that they possibly could considering the circumstances. You had a first-time starting quarterback in Michael Van Buren as a true freshman walking into a 100,000-seat stadium and getting the job done the best he possibly could. I thought he had a really good game, all things considered. Bringing up his stats from that Texas game real quick. And, as the game went on in that game, I thought things really started to come together for him. I can't pull up his stats for that game for whatever reason. Anyways, he was solid in that ball game. In this game, things started off rocky for Van Buren and State's offense. And, a lot of people are going to blame that on Mississippi State, but I thought that State was just physically outmatched for the most part. When you look at the line of scrimmage, it wasn't as overwhelming against Texas. Texas, to me, their strengths on the defensive side of the ball, at least on the defensive line, were those edge rushers, and they got a lot of pressure on Van Buren, but State was able to have some success in between the tackles and in the interior of the offensive line, kind of moving those guys out of the way and really running the football pretty well. Georgia yesterday, it felt like they really game planned to stop Mississippi State from running the football, and they did a good job of that. State was able to kind of get a little bit of success in the second half offensively running the ball, but just 3 yards a carry. Yesterday, the running backs had 19 carries for just over 60 yards. They averaged 3 yards a rush, so it wasn't a great ball game running the football, but that was kind of expected. I didn't expect Mississippi State to be able to run the ball at will against that defensive front from Georgia. There's just the talent level is just too high there with those guys for Mississippi State to have a lot of success. But I thought in the second half, things really started to come together. It was a rough first half offensively. State had, in the first half, they had 130 yards of total offense. They had 12 yards in the first quarter. The first quarter was really big for Mississippi State in the general scheme of things. 128 yards for Georgia in the first quarter, 12 for Mississippi State. 7 carries for 9 yards. I mean, it was just it was impossible to move the football. And State kind of they were hanging in there for a little bit. They had a 3-0 lead, and then it jumped out to 10-3, and then it was 17 to 3, I believe. State was able to score a touchdown. 27-10 was your halftime score, and it was as lopsided as it's been in a while. 369 yards to 130. It was, complete domination from Carson Beck. I thought State played well defensively in the first quarter. You had an interception on the first possession. You were able to kind of get off the field. It felt like the defense was playing really hard. I thought Bryce Pollock, which this whole time been calling him Bryce Pollock, is apparently Pollock. We heard that from the announcers yesterday, and I was thinking they're wrong. No, Bryce came out and said they were correct. So we've been wrong the whole time on that. But I thought he played really well. And the secondary looked pretty darn good in that first quarter. And then Beck just absolutely obliterated the secondary. 36 of 48 in the game for Carson Beck, 459, 3 touchdowns. State did pick him off twice. 605 yards for this offense for Georgia. Mississippi State's defense is just not good. It just is what it is at this point. And I think you can point to coaching. I think you can point to the players. I just don't think Mississippi State has the players right now. There might have to be some changes to the coaching, but this defense cannot be sustainable moving forward for Mississippi State. 500 plus against Texas, 600 plus against Georgia. That can't be something that you move forward with. So you got to get better players on that side. You might have to make some changes in the staff too, because this is just too much. I mean, Carson Beck was completing 75% of his passes. He almost threw 50 and almost 500 yards passing. I mean, State they couldn't cover. After that first quarter, we saw just pathetic effort on one of those touchdown plays. Brylan Lanier wrapped the guy up at the 5-yard line and then pushed him into the end zone. I'd never seen anything like that at Mississippi State. That was just despicable what happened there. And I don't even know if he played the rest of the ball game. That was so bad. He finished with 6 tackles in the game and a tackle for loss, but that was really disappointing effort on that play to give up. And that's essentially what he did. You're at the 5-yard line. You give up on the play when you had the guy wrapped up. You never know what's going to happen there. And I'm not going to be too negative on this because I thought State played really well, especially in the second half. But that is unacceptable. And especially in this era when guys are getting paid and you're getting more as a student athlete than you've ever gotten before. To give that kind of effort that's terrible. And that's something that's going to be really tough in the film session this week for Brylan Lanier, but that was rough. But other than that, I thought the effort from the team was exceptional, especially in the second half. You turn the page over into the second half, and State comes out and I thought played really inspired football. Third quarter, you outscored Georgia 14-7. And fourth quarter was even. 138 yards, 159 yards in the third quarter. Mississippi State was right there with Georgia. You had 2 really exciting touchdown drives. In the fourth quarter, you outgained them 117-77. And Michael Van Buren, he was 8 for 8 in the third quarter. He was 7 for 14 in the fourth. And he threw 2 touchdown passes in the second half. So in the second half, 15 of 22 for 190 yards, 2 touchdowns. After the first half, he was 5 of 15 for touchdown interception. And Van Buren really, I think, came alive in this game. I've had a lot of faith in this kid, and this has been a guy I've just said, just be patient with him, let him go through his lumps. I think he's going to be able to do it. He's been, from the start, from the jump when he came in, this is Jeff Lebby's guy. He's got the skill set. He's got the mind. He's got everything that Jeff Lebby wants in a quarterback, and you are, right now, molding him into what's going to be, I think, a really good college quarterback before it's all said and done. 20 of 37 in the game, 54% completions, but he's throwing a lot of low percentage passes as far as, the ability to make a play. The percentages drop tremendously when you're throwing the ball down the field like he was. And he struggled on some short intermediate passes yesterday in the first half, some slant routes. I kind of attribute that to some jitters that he was having. But 20 for 37 in the second half, 15 to 22. And the passes he was making in the second half were just sick. I mean, for a true freshman to fit some of the passes into the windows he was fitting, the passes he had down the field, it was really inspiring to watch. 306 yards, 3 touchdowns, interception. His first 300-yard game, his first 3 touchdowns as a college player. Kevin Coleman, 8 catches, 103 yards, was really good. This was the first time we've seen Kelly Akari really come out. 3 catches, 72 yards. He made 2 really nice catches, 2 touchdowns. And then Mario Craver, 2 catches for 75, was really good too. I thought Seydou Traore had some good moments in the second half. 5 catches for 51 yards. This is kind of a glimpse of what Mississippi State's offense is supposed to look like under Jeff Lebby. And when they really opened it up in the second half, we started to see some more shots. We started to see some more plays that I thought really looked like what Jeff Lebby's done at some of his other stops. And we've seen a little bit of that this year, but I think what was really encouraging is to see the true freshmen do that. The true freshmen make some of those plays against a defense that I think is going to be really good when it's all said and done. State finishes with 385 yards, 79 on the ground, 306 through the air. Just not very good on third downs, 2 of 12. But they were 3 for 3 on fourth downs, which is really impressive. 6 yards of play, that's a solid number. 15 yards of completion. I mean, you're not used to that as a Mississippi State fan. That's something that's really jumped with Jeff Lebby's offense. Way more explosive plays. Weren't able to control the time possession like you did against Texas. I think the goal coming in was to do exactly what you did against Texas. The game plan was very similar. You try to control the clock, you try to run the football, try to establish the run, keep the ball away from Carson Beck. And you weren't able to establish the run, which was I think the biggest issue. In the first 3 possessions, you got 3 and outs. I think you had like 7 yards offensively. You tried to run the ball on first down, you get stuffed. It's 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 routinely early. That's not a position you want to be in. I said early in the ball game, this looks like every game that Mississippi State's played on the road against a top 5 opponent. That, like, in my entire life. Dan Mullen, Joe Moorhead, Mike Leach, like, those teams went to Alabama, Georgia, places like that, LSU, and could not move the football. And that's what we saw in the first quarter. State just could not move the football like they needed to do. And the reason they were able to stay in the ball game with Texas most of the way through 3 quarters was they had like a 20-minute differential in time of possession. They were keeping the ball away from Texas. They were putting together 7-8 minute drives. We didn't see that for a while until the second half, and they closed that gap, just a 5-minute differential in time of possession, 33 for Georgia, 26 for State. But State needed to be on the other end of that. I think that's kind of the key for this team right now because the defense is so bad. I mean, 600 yards and Georgia scoring on nearly every possession. Let's see what Georgia did, by the way, on their possessions. But you got to be able to possess the ball. Okay, they threw an interception on their first. Then it was 5 straight scores in the first half. I mean, State just could not get off the field. 2 of those were field goals, which to me are wins for Mississippi State when they're able to get that, and then 3 touchdowns. And they had a missed field goal there at the end of the half. There was a long field goal try. Second half, you got off the field a little bit. You only gave up 2 touchdowns, and Georgia didn't have the ball much. That's the difference in the second half. State had in the second half 8-minute drive, 10-minute. No, that's wrong. Here we go. 5-minute drive, 5-minute drive, 4-minute drive. Every drive was long. The nearly 5-minute drive that they had on the second to last possession, where you got kind of stalled from a penalty, they punted on that one, but that was almost 5 minutes. So 8 plays, 75 yards, 521. 8 plays, 80 yards, 356. 10 plays, 29, 443. Final drive, 9 plays, 75 yards in 1:46. That's 3 touchdown drives and 4 possessions in the second half. That was as good as you could be in the second half. Mississippi State was that. I thought really impressive. 41-31 is your final score. Georgia, I don't know what to think about this team. They have an extremely talented quarterback in Carson Beck, but very flawed. Threw 2 interceptions. Their running game just doesn't look the same, which Branson Robinson, their backup, went out, the kid from Germantown. They averaged 5 yards a rush. I mean, against this defense in the past, Georgia would have averaged 8 yards a carry. That's just the fact of the matter. They had some big plays from their receivers, and Carson Beck had a good game, but this just doesn't feel like the Georgia team that we're used to. They don't have that. There's something about them. They just don't have that dominant nature about them. They have a really talented team, but I don't know what's going on with them. I think they're still a playoff team potentially, but this schedule is daunting. I don't think that Ole Miss game is a gimme. I know Ole Miss lost on Saturday night, but that's still an Ole Miss team capable of winning that ball game. And they're at home. Georgia plays Tennessee. This schedule's not easy, and if they lose 2 more games, they're out of the playoff. They get Kirby Smart's like aggressively running down the sidelines, pushing Michael Van Buren. He said he was trying to get to the defensive coordinator. I don't know. That was still just bizarre. They've had all these arrests. They just seem like they're kind of, there's something within them kind of disjointed. They scored 41 points in this game, but this is a terrible defense. And they gave up 31. I don't remember the last time Mississippi State scored this many points against a top 5 team, specifically on the road in the regular season. I don't remember. It's been a while. That 2017 team that played Alabama, they scored the 20s, and that felt like an amazing offensive game for Mississippi State. This was just a different level, but I think that's what you see with Jeff Lebby's offense. He's got the ability to do this on the scoreboard. They scored 24 against Bama in 17. That might have been the most. So this might be the most they've scored in a long time. I mean, just really bizarre, I guess, what we're seeing from Georgia. They just don't seem to have that killer instinct right now. I keep waiting for them to click. I thought this was going to be the game. I thought they were going to score 50-plus, hold Mississippi State to single digits. It didn't happen. Mississippi State in the second half controlled that second half. So Georgia's got some issues they have to work out. And, it's a nice thing to do whenever you have a 6-1 record or whatever they are right now. It's nice to be able to teach through that because you haven't eliminated yourself in the playoff. You're still winning ball games, but I promise you the Kirby Smart staff is looking at this game and saying we have some major league issues we got to get fixed. So and they got to get it fixed quick because they have a brutal schedule coming up. For Mississippi State, you're on the other end of this thing. You're sitting here at 1-5, and normally a team would be like in shambles. Mississippi State, it seems like they have new life right now. They're 1-5 and 0-3. There's you look at the rest of the schedule, and a couple of weeks ago, especially after the Toledo game, I'm looking there and I'm saying I can't find 3 wins for this team. But from what they've shown the last 2 weeks, we've seen so many crazy things happen in college football this year. It is impossible to say Mississippi State is not capable of winning a couple of more games here. And in SEC play, they have some winnable games. You got A&M, Arkansas, and Missouri all at home. I think it's possible to win a couple of those games. I think they can lose all 3. They could very well lose all 3. They could very well win just one of them. They could win 3. I don't know what's going to happen. But you have some winnable games there. Texas A&M is the least winnable probably of the 3 teams because to me they have been the most consistent and the better team of all 3 without a doubt. Texas A&M looks really good. Arkansas, I just don't know what I'm going to get with them. They got a big win over Tennessee. You got them coming up in a couple of weeks. That game is winnable. You've beaten them 9 of the last 11 or whatever it is, so that's winnable. UMass, you should win that handily. Tennessee is odd. They're kind of like Georgia right now. They have some major flaws, and they have more flaws than Georgia, it appears. That's a team I felt like is national championship caliber in the last 2 weeks. They just haven't shown it. That's in Knoxville. I would not predict State to win that, but who knows? Missouri looks winnable as well. This doesn't look like the team we were expecting, and that's at home. That to me probably has the best potential of upset for Mississippi State of their remaining games. And then Ole Miss, you never know what's going to happen. What's Ole Miss going to look like at that point? Are they going to be able to turn this thing around? They've lost 2 out of the last 3. They lose 1 more, they're out of the playoff, and I don't know what's going to happen there. So who knows what happens with Mississippi State down the stretch, but I feel like this team is fighting. They have a spirit about them that is admirable and something that you can really build on. And it's just you can see the makings of this program moving in that right direction. And we'll see if Jeff Lebby's able to turn that into wins, because that's really what is important right now. Is you got to find a way to get some wins here and really build on it. Going 2-10 this year, it really doesn't help you as much. And I say sometimes it's not about the wins, but it kind of is. You do need to see the fruits of your labor. You need to see the hard work kind of pay off at some point. I think they're gonna beat somebody here down the stretch that they're not supposed to beat. I think they're gonna get an upset in the back half of the schedule. It just feels that way. So can Mississippi State find 4 wins out of the schedule? If you do that, you are moving quickly into the right direction. If you can get 3 more wins here, if you can find a way to get 3 wins, if you can get to 5, man, I mean, you're really talking then. But you're seeing some production on the recruiting trail. You're seeing some excitement out of your freshman quarterback. The offense is putting up points against good teams. It feels like things are starting to build a little bit for Jeff Lebby, and you're finally starting to see the sun rise a little bit when you were in the dark. So if encouraging State fans here, get to Davis Wade on Saturday. Get there, support the team. The team needs that support at this point. They're fighting, and they deserve a big crowd for that. I think they're going to have the 2014 team is coming in. We might see Dak Prescott in town. We might see Dan Mullen, who knows. So it should be an exciting day at Davis Wade Stadium with a really good team coming in, a team that's a playoff caliber ball club in Texas A&M. And it's a program that you've had some success against. This isn't a game that I'm throwing in the towel. So State fans, I know 1-5 is not something to be excited about, but imagine having a packed house for a 1-5 program. What kind of statement that makes? I think that really starts to put a stamp on Jeff Lebby. Is here. He's moving in the right direction. So I encourage you, if you have the means, to get up to Starkville and come to this game next weekend. Weather's probably going to be great. Going to be a fun ball game. I think Mississippi State going to have a shot. We'll see. So other than that, that's my thoughts for today. We'll have Thunder and Lightning coming up tonight. It's going to be late tonight. Brian's coming back from the coast. But I appreciate you guys. Subscribe to this channel if you aren't already. Subscribe to Maroon and White Daily. We have some notes on the men's basketball scrimmage over there. We have a 50% off deal right now, so you've got to get over there. 50% off. I got the promo code on Twitter. So if you're looking for that, just let me know. But you should be able to see it in my tweets. But I appreciate you guys. Have a great week. I will be back for Talking Dogs Monday. I didn't do it this week. I had some things come up, but I will be back this week. But appreciate y'all. Have a great rest of the day. We'll catch you down the road.